Hi Sagittarians, welcome to your July 23rd to August, I think it's almost 23rd actually this month, 22nd and early morning. So depending which day you're born on the 23rd, you'll be either a Leo or a Virgo this year, because that's how, the dial kind of like fell. So let's see what's in store for you guys. And also to remind everybody, the readings are kind of like reward per clicks and feedbacks and comments. The more times you click, the more times you comment, the bigger the reading is going to be and the faster you're going to get it. So it's an incentive. You are now number 5 out of 12 signs, and I'm sure you can do better. Sagittarians are one of mine really cool signs, and I'm really looking forward that you guys support me in bigger numbers. Also, please check if you're still subscribed, because YouTube is changing their algorithm, and people actually wrote to me that, hey, I'm subscribed to you like for 2 years, and what is it? I'm not getting notifications. I said, can you check? I said, no, I am not subscribed. I said, what do you mean you're not subscribed? And then I realized, Google was changing algorithm, and many people had those issues. All right, you have some jumpers, and this first people in the first 6 positions are going to get all these cards that are jumpers interpreted. Otherwise, I'm just going straight in the reading. Let me just zoom this in for you so you can see it better. I am seeing here 5 of Swords, and 5 of Swords is really interesting card though. In the other decks, it kind of has a different meaning. I am not one of those readers who will just drill inside of my head, well, these are the keywords and I'm going to interpret that. No, I'm kind of like very intuitive, and that's why you people, those of you who like me because I kind of like go with what kind of hints I get and how do I connect it with my logic, right? So here we are seeing somebody fighting a dragon. Look at this. And since we are going through Mercury retrograde in Leo, yes guys, I forgot to mention, Mercury retrograde finishes on the 1st of August, 31st or 1st of August, depending where you are situated. And we do have another 2 weeks of shadow, so we are not out of the woods until the 15th. And people say, oh, never mind this shadow. You see, for me, most crap that comes from retrograde happens in shadows, maybe because my Mercury is in Virgo, which is also ruled by Mercury. So 5 of Swords here, like the dragon is almost like the symbol of all that power in the Eastern kind of like mythology, where we have here lions being the king of the jungle. So it's almost like kind of slaying it right now, slaying the dragon motive over here. So I think this kind of really tells me about dealing with things from the past, dealing with, oh my gosh, this is kind of like rearing its ugly head, and I really need to kind of like cut it. Maybe you're fed up with certain things. Maybe certain things just came in a situation that you kind of like don't even want to be bothered with that anymore. Sometimes it does happen that we keep repeating the cycles, and we keep repeating and recycling partners, and even if the new person come in our life, they kind of like bring old issues, and every new person is more appealing and more fun initially, and then like, whoa, where did that go? Well, the mask is down, so then you see the real person, right? So it's really interesting over here, because with this 5 of Swords, like, it's really talking about a war. I don't know if you can look at it like they're like these 2 guys running in fear, but there's like somebody who is really standing up to it, right? It's kind of like really interesting, because even the person who wrote this cards, they call it the little white book information, that just did go with the ordinary explanation. Hey, there is like a war and somebody's going to be humiliated and so on and so forth. I don't really see it that way. Sorry, I really think this is a lovely card, but this has so much more in it. If you're really looking at it, and let me lift it up a little bit so it's easier for me. Slaying the dragon to me indicates, and being tangled up in a situation indicates that there is a need for clarity. There is a need, and also we see it from this card, kind of going in a new direction. Why do you think this do? That most people don't ask themselves these questions that I ask myself. You're going to see how boring my life is. here is the falls, let's say Niagara Falls, because it's almost like in the time was like without that fence. It kind of like really feels like it. You want to touch it, and then if you touch it, you will be actually falling down. Not a good thing to touch it, right? So he is here with the globe. Why is this dude coming over here with that globe and holding a wand? Well, if you see a person like that, you will think, what a weirdo, right? Like, I better keep walking because he might want to talk to me and then I don't know what to do, kind of a thing, right? But you see, all of these cards are archetypes. Some of them are stronger, some of them are indicating a bigger issues, and some of them are indicating smaller issues. So this is really talking about, if you see this wand over here is supported with some stones. And as we all know about gravity and the support, that's not going to last very long. There's like something that is built in the past on a very tricky foundation, something that somebody's propelling, and you're wondering if this is even sustainable. It could be a lie, it could be life, it could be love, it could be job, it could be simply that some of you are coming to that middle age kind of like maturity, and you're going like, why am I doing all of that? For which reason I'm doing that? I'm kind of like so freaking tired of everything, and I just like really want to move on. This really tells me that it's kind of like need for some kind of clarity. It is like really need for determining goals and determining direction in which one you want to take. And so there is like this almost like anticipation. He's holding that other wand, right? And like saying, okay, you know what, I have to leave this. I have to go in a new direction. There is like this anticipation of what is better for me. Like, we don't necessarily look in the future and say, in my future, I want to be a murderer. Well, unless you're a really sick person. Okay, let me just take this because I'm pretty sure like there are crazy people like that as well. And I'm going to be a really difficult person. I'm going to be highly argumentative. You know what I mean. We kind of like really anticipate this future to be easy and happy. And when life gets in the way and we are not getting it, then we get frustrated, then we get angry. That's really usually how it works, right? So this is really also talking about the commitment, and sort of like, look, if you don't have the commitment, the flame will go out, right? So you really need to kind of like go forward. This also can talk about, I don't know, maybe somebody not committing to you, maybe being sad over some situation. It could be kind of looking back in the past. This also, I have to be honest with you guys, you know, I'm not one of the readers who is sugarcoating, that I see a third person situation over here. That's something that not necessarily is ongoing. It could be ongoing for some of you. And it would be really good to hear from cross-watchers. I absolutely love cross-watchers. And cross-watchers are people who are watching Sagittarians, but they're different sign. They have an interest in a Sagittarian, I guess. Because they are possible these people who have been, let's say, touched or burned. And it's not necessarily that Sagittarians always know that they're doing it. And it takes one to know one. Me being Aquarius, we are similar in flavor to your sign. We kind of can bluntly say the things and not completely realizing that delivery is actually way more important than the truth itself. Because if we get a person, you know, on the wrong foot, on the wrong day, in the wrong circumstance, then we can really embarrass them or hurt them. And we sort of like want to get to the point, want to get to the bottom of the issue, and sometimes it's just simply too much. There it is. There's like one more confirmation. I don't know if there is a trouble, guys. Be careful traveling during the Mercury retrograde, but this card to me is lovely. It tells me that you have achieved some kind of prestige in your life, that even though you did it, that maybe you are willing to let go. I really think she's leaving her relationship. Remember, we just had this Five of Swords. He was just slaying, like he was all tangled up, but she is leaving in the same situation. So she enlisted help from somebody else, and she took only the most precious things to her. And what is the most precious things to her? Who she is, They're like all these kind of like crests of her family, and so she knows she's like a princess in her own head. You can even see that she's holding here crystals. She's trying to be grounded, right? And and child, which can literally be your own family. It can talk about something that is really meaningful to you, right? Something that could be your core beliefs. But she's also taking all the swords, and this is not the best way to travel. Having the swords in the boat generally doesn't promise like calm path. So she obviously is plugging certain issues that she doesn't want to deal with, but they're ahead of her. So even though she is maybe moving and away from a relationship or away from some situation, she is still not escaping all of these things that are actually somewhere in her head, right? So wow, you're getting lots of clarifiers, and it keeps on going. Are you dealing with a Leo, guys? I mean, this is talking about really what I'm not going to reiterate. It's like how I said it. It's very important how we say it, not what we say it, but how we say it. Kind of like practice that how. And the Strength card is always talking about really where we stop being that, what they call it, lower end human, where is everything a knee-jerk reaction, and we are entering into that level of, okay, I need to package things properly. And this is a true challenge, right? Strength is about inner abilities, inner kind of like hope, and how we how we perceive ourselves in the world with others. It's not only about us. And of course ego is a big thing, because this card clearly represents Leo, so there is like this big ego. But one thing about Leo is that ego only kicks in later. Initially they're very intrigued, they really want to know things about you, and so you are being invited on the stage. You are being invited to actually show that ego. So it could be that there's like some kind of like issue that is really trigger point for you, because understand that this is like telling that true power comes from within, right? And this is about patience and being gentle and being compassionate, right? Because sometimes this card, and it hasn't been reversed, can talk about aggression. So this woman and the lion signify that we really need to tame the beast within ourselves, right? So it could be courage, it could be control, it could be patience, it could be commitment to something new. All right, Sagittarius, are you going to let us start? You already got your full reading. Okay, Saggies. Nope. We gotta go. I have to walk the dog. Sagittarians. Okay, so let's see for Leo transition. So let's see with the general energies. So first of all, you have, and let me just bring it for you, 4 of Wands. Also a very different rendition. So let's kind of like go in a little bit more detail about this, because that's the general energy for this entire period. See, this card in the other decks is really talking about triumph, and it's really talking about success. You're going to see that victorious dance of a couple, and you're seeing that fortress or a castle in the background, right? Here is a little bit different. So nonetheless, we still see a woman who is here with a child. Remember how you also had her, traveling through this, troubled waters and hoping for the better life, and still knowing that certain things still need to be dealt with, right? What I really like here, that she is collecting flowers. So she is really looking for healing, and she's looking for the beautiful in her life, because look at that. Behind what she left is betrayal. She feels that somebody let her down. And it could be that you guys have been left down by your close friends or relatives, or that you feel that somehow you cannot get up. And I really feel that there is someone that left an impression on you. I really have to say that. You see, this card, and it's conflict right between these two cards, because this card is really talking about celebrations and happy families and parties, weddings, that kind of stuff. Also reunions, and kind of like when you feel that you really fit in, like let's say you invited somewhere where you're all strangers and you're like so hesitant to go because you don't want to deal with anxiety, and then you get there and it's just like a little pea in a pod, right, kind of a thing. So this is really talking about laying down roots, and it's like really talking about finally being able to go to that next direction. Remember this dude in 201s? The dude was holding this globe. Oh, what is the world I want for me? She knows what world she wants. She already has some of it, and she is now going to this next stage. So this is clearly, to me, talking about the next stage, kind of like about the coming together and the community spirit and teamwork. When it comes to, for example, love, that's amazing, good kind of like omen. It's representing happy family life, and relationship going well when this appears, right? And I don't know, whether or not stage you're at. If you're single, you'll probably start to date, you'll probably start to pay attention, you'll probably start to realize it can represent union with a past life that comes back in your life when this appears, right? And again, feeling comfort, which is really important. You guys rarely feel comfort with other people. Rarely. You are very philosophy oriented sign. You're like try to get this truth, and many people cannot handle the truth. You can't handle the truth, right? And so when this appears, it's like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. If you, for example, don't want a date, then this card is going to mean you will be enjoying single life when this appears, right? You will be almost like saying, well, I don't know how much longer can I enjoy this. I better take advantage of this, right? So when it comes to the other sectors of your life, such as, let's say, money and career, it's again positive thing. It could talk about some kind of office party. Somebody might have a birthday. And if I, for example, have this card in a financial tarot reading, it will talk about that, hey, you're on a good path with your finances, right? So, but also I would say, like, you still have to continue working hard and making kind of like sound financial planning. So you need to do your part, right? So also can talk about using the wealth, to treat your loved ones. So somebody might splurge on you, or you might splurge on somebody. This can be as simple as, taking somebody to the restaurant, or even kind of like buying some gift that kind of like is going to be remembered. And I don't know why pearls came to my vision. I don't know if I like pearls. I like round beads, but pearls are really weird, right? But anyway, when it comes to health, I really think that some of you have been very depressed, and some of you have been very defensive. Some of you were get the F out of my life and leave me alone kind of, attitude. Maybe you have been a little bit edgy. Maybe you have been a little bit prickly. And that's because you have been living a little bit of inauthentic life for a while right now, I would say. And I really think this could be lasting. And for some of you, it's relatively fresh wound. For the others, it could be something that have left like 1001 kind of like slices, right? So look, you don't come to the fork with the fork to the gunfight, right? Kind of a thing, right? So this is saying to me that there is going to be this feeling of release. It's a big month. It's a karmic month. In this month, what is really needed, and it's going to be a hard lesson for all of us, myself included, when you think that somebody wronged you, and when you think that, why did it happen? And it's actually us who should say, I'm sorry. And that's kind of like how karma works. Like it's like elastic band as a boomerang. Whenever we push and you demand something from them, it comes back. So it's kind of going to be counterintuitive, this particular thing, because the boomerang effect is coming down, especially when Mercury is in Leo, right? Be careful of pregnancies if that's not what you want, or welcome it, because that can indicate, that you might get pregnant with this kind of like great kind of like reading. So I also think that some of you can become a little bit more ceremonial, that you might sort of like become a part of, you know how you like philosophy or like religion, you don't so much adhere to it because of it, but you like that sense of community, that sense that people are looking for these higher levels and layers, right? But again, it's going to be something that is going to make you feel really at home. It's going to make you feel, oh my gosh, I have finally something to say, because I feel that for a while you're feeling abandoned, if you wish, or that you are just simply dead and that you are living your life. Or, you know, like some of you got stuck, and it is really time right now to get unstuck. So let's see what else can I see over here. Whoa, Page of Swords. It's again about criticism. It's again about harsh words. I really think that you are absolutely clueless of something, or somebody is rendering really harsh words in the situation. Guys, it's a general reading. In a general reading, you need to check your ascendant, you need to check your moon. That way you kind of like glue those pieces together. It's Old Navy kind of like clothing. You need to kind of like go to seamstress to tuck it here and there to have it a la carte kind of a thing, right? So Page of Swords, or Knave of Swords, is talking about criticism, and that you find criticism is useful. You might be criticized, or you might be criticizing, but in this stage of a page that can really talk about errors, somebody drawing false logical conclusions but being fierce at the same time, right? So it is like really something that maybe you will hear that you don't want to hear. Maybe it's going to be something that, you know, rock the boat kind of a thing. Page of Swords can talk about spying activities on Facebook, checking somebody's profile. You know, it's all part of that Mercury retrograde. Maybe somebody is going to be very happy, a past partner. You're going to find something about them, and you're going to be really angry about that and very vocal. You'll tell them about it. And, you know, like, I mean, when I asked you to go and dance with me, you were laughing at me, and now this is just normal for you. That sort of things, right? Page of Swords is like somebody who kind of has a little bit of verbal diarrhea, and we all kind of like can get to that situation, you know, from time to time. Let me actually just zoom this out a little bit so you can see this better, because you'll have more cards over here on the table. So Page of Swords is being crossed with woo. There is a block. You want to tell, it could be either you telling somebody off, or you're trying to go somewhere. Remember this guy in Two of Wands kind of holding his globe and wanting to go in a new direction, or the lady traveling the troubled waters in Six of Swords. Well, now we have a Nine of Swords. There we have like this kind of like self-imposed prison, and it's kind of like trying to start something else, but you just cannot get out of your own head or out of your own situation, right? Because these are almost like aces pages, right? Like it's the beginning. You still need to kind of culture it and cultivate it and grow it and work on it. He gets a horse in the next installment. Then he has to kind of prove himself as a knight. And maybe he will marry, you know, into a family and then become a king one day. Maybe. That's kind of like a path that's kind of like in the royalty. I don't know. It was a really tricky life to live. She, on the other hand, is representing basically anxiety. It's representing our everyday life. It's representing, you know, that you're feeling, you're almost feeling that you have no value. You're almost feeling that other people are not giving you respect and not giving you that little simple pat on the shoulder that you really want. This can talk about restriction and inhibitions, prohibitions. This clearly, he kind of like wants to go in this direction, and clearly, poof, goes in a wall. So there is like that feeling that I think it's kind of showing some constraint right here. It is going to start shifting around the 2nd of August for you guys. So at the end of July can be a little bit tricky in that respect. So I would say keep your mouth shut. And I would say if somebody goes in that viral verbal diarrhea toward you, I would simply just excuse myself and go elsewhere. It's just like you don't have to stay out of politeness. You don't have to no, we don't have to do stuff like that anymore, right? If somebody's just obnoxious and rude, yeah, just take your puppy and leave, right? So I mean, I do this all the time. Like, my puppy is the nicest behaving puppy that you can find. Everybody's talking about it until he snaps at people, because he has that border collie in him that he just wants to jump and hurt people and children and stuff. And it's, oh my god, when is this going to come out? That kind of like wildness, right? So I already kind of prepare myself when, you know, I'm coming to anticipated danger, children or people who have hats, right, being socialized. So if people say, well, can I pet your puppy? I said, no, please, let's not do it, because I know that he'll be reacting, oh, and they feel like I'm personally offended, and they still want to go it, and then you go, oh, he just goes crazy. And then, look, if they still want to do it, then I just like, this, okay, we gotta go. And it's like really not the point when people just don't want to take you seriously. Meanwhile, they're not understanding the stress and stuff that I'm dealing with. It's very similar to you guys in that situation, right? You need to put it in perspective. Think of this freaking puppy story. Like, if people just kind of like keep intruding on you and they want something of you clearly that maybe you cannot give, they have to make their choice, right? So what's the basis particularly? And oh my goodness, what an ominous Tower card. Look at that. First of all, it's very phallic. Tarot is always phallic. So it is about sex, guys. The Tower really talks about that Tower doesn't care. The trouble strikes no matter who you are. You can be living under the bridge and you can be the king. And simply, if things are not being built on proper foundations, they will collapse and something will happen. But you know what? This is not a bad card. Sure, it's not the nicest thing that happens when it's happening, but you know, it actually will ensure that once when it's being rebuilt, once when this kind of like burns are being kind of like patched up, then things are going to get better. So it almost tells me that there is like some kind of barrier. I can see that here, that sense of imprisonment and sense of not living your authentic life. And this is almost like enlightenment. I don't know if you're seeing that over here. Can you see this over here? Almost looks like a phoenix. Almost looks like, to me, that bird. Look at that, those feathers. Can you see that? How this is kind of like reacting? Which means that you'll probably be in a situation where you will feel really cornered, where you will feel, oh my goodness, how do I get myself out of this jam? And so from the 16th August on, it might be kind of like repositioning. And remember what I said, it's good to say I'm sorry even though you think it's them who kind of like injured you and not kind of like vice versa. So it's kind of really going to be refreshing. It's the ego, the tricky ego thing that we need to kind of like work with and need to kind of address. So the next will be to see the energies from the past and your past foundations. It's Ace of Wands. Remember, we had this dude with 2 of Wands, we also had 4 of Wands, and now it's the Ace. I love aces in this deck. It's growing, and she is studying something. There is like something that has already started, so she is almost like stopping, and you can even see the flower over there. So she was already getting, looks like, the fruits of this plant. and now she's like really looking forward so much more. Now, sorry about my dirty mind, but aren't these two cards super phallic? So what's about this, guys? Did you have super amazing sex with somebody in the past? Ace of Wands can talk about the old karmic kind of deals, old things coming up, right? It's can be physically starting something, clearly, as we can see that, right? It can talk about finding new passion. Sometimes these kind of things bring things from the past, and how they bring things from the past, not necessarily that they pull the past partner, but for example, you had a partner that you really enjoy dancing with, right? But since you didn't dance because your current partner just hates it, or you didn't find anybody since who is willing to do that, and all of a sudden you're going to say, wait a minute, why am I limiting myself that I have to find someone? Why can't I just do it myself, right? So it's kind of like representing sort of like a challenge, and this was kind of like some kind of like sense of urgency and a new lease of life, right? When kind of like it appears, it's kind of like a creative spark as well. It almost looks like something started. You were like kind of feeling that you're going in a new direction. Maybe you put something to the back burner, not even in the back burner, you kind of buried it and it was done, over with, put a fork in me kind of a thing. But it's not done. It could be quite a bit about a person that left a big impression on you. It could be, sometimes things don't work out. After all, your card is Temperance, which to me always says, well, the stars have to line up for things to work out. And you really have to be hopeful that it's not only somebody we're attracted to and somebody we can talk and somebody we can have awesome sex with and somebody who has the same idea of the family, but you also have to go through a whole bunch of a million little annoying things every day with this person, and day after day after day, not to mention health that sometimes kind of like affects us as well. So it was somebody who was exciting, who was spontaneous, possibly traveling again. Maybe you met this person on a vacation, or maybe you met this person when you were much younger, kind of a thing, right? And somehow it kind of got revived, right? You could have met this person through work as well, and this person literally rock your world, and rock your world to the point that everything freaking exploded. So it was like too much of a good thing. And somebody got stuck. Somebody got stuck in a situation and it couldn't move forward. There, again, I'm having a feeling there were expectations here placed on you and that you could not fulfill them. I feel that also it was a path that could have been very painful. I also feel that this painful path felt very warlike, that you have been in a kind of like zone where you kind of like guarded yourself, right? And just like really, maybe it was not temptation so much as that you felt that you don't belong, right? As much as I was saying prior to it, there is like this sense of 4 of Wands, the sense of belonging. Here in this situation, I felt I don't know, maybe you were dating a person who you felt he was like, or she was like out of your league, and things would never happen, and you still wanted to dream, and you wanted a little piece of happiness, and when a person finally noticed you and started to pursue you, you said, no, it cannot happen to me, right? And pulled away. And now you're wondering, have I done the right thing, right? It could be one of those things. It could be simply kind of like you grasping your own past deeds and how you reacted. And finally, maybe it's the clarity and you have time to really think through it and deal with that. So this is really good thing. What's above you? The sun. And we are going through the transition of the sun, and the sun is in Leo, and like the sun is also Leo's ruler. So I don't know if you have male children, because it signifies a boy over here, even though we really cannot tell. So it can be both in this particular deck. This is really talking, remember how you had this strength card that kind of like jumped through it? Well, this also is extremely powerful card, right? In the sun, it's almost like feeling like a victory. When I see that in the reading, it's like sun is shining, everything is well, right? So this is really talking about, you know, a light, the soul, like it's finally your load is lightened, right? So you're going from this freaking dark to like the light. And you know, like one thing about your sign is like that you are well known for your optimism and vitality, and it feels like to me that you're like freaking this knight without a horse, and like you're like Monty Python movies, like na 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 na, kind of like with the like, kind of like broom instead of the horse, and you start feeling ridiculous to yourself, like with certain way how you behaved, and then you kind of like finally getting stuck. There is a shakedown, and all of a sudden you're waking up from a dream that was a nightmare. So this is great. This nightmare is like all of a sudden you woke up in the middle of the night, you went to the bathroom, and now I can dream, and all of a sudden you enter this beautiful part of a dream where everything really works out, because the sun is opening the doors. Sun is like dealing with almost like karmic things. But look at this, we have a 1, we have a 1, we almost have a 1, and we have a 9. So there is like this shift that is happening. I think you have a really, as I said, long, and it was in a multiple of 9s. It was like either 9 months, or let's say 18 months, or 27 months, even 9 years, maybe for some of you, that situations haven't been rolling in a positive way. And now you'll be laughing. It's almost like going to be in the zone. The sun tells me you're in the zone. It's almost like things will happen. So what is ahead of you is, oh my goodness, the world. Okay, so this is one of these readings that I had it for Leo, I had it for Aquarius, and this is kind of like the culmination of this process. Remember how I was just saying, like, I mean, something is finally finishing, and you have been clearing some super duper heavy duty karmic stuff, and you are passing with flying colors. Mind you, there are like still certain things you need to do which you don't want to do. Somebody still has to break through this wall. Somebody still has to tell the truth. Maybe you don't want to say certain things because you feel you're going to hurt the other person. Maybe this is kind of like the other person doesn't want to do it. But you see, it will happen. It will happen. It's going to feel like a freaking shakedown, but it will happen. The World card is really talking about kind of like rising above yourself. That's why I'm considering this like one of my karma cards, right? It's mastery of yourself, it's realization and success, and it's again this conclusion and joy. So that's something that has been started in the past are now finishing. So whether or not you're finally finishing that bond with a person, or you're kind of releasing it, you're cutting that cord and saying, okay, I understand, we have met, we saw each other, we conquered, if you wish, many vidi vici, and now I get it, its connection was about learning something. Or some of you will even go toward that and actively pursue it. So the World card is this, also the card that can signify the worldly success. If you guys looking for a job, this is really good. You might have a few kind of like empty doors knocks kind of a thing, as I call it, where people will even ridicule you and kind of like do stuff, but you really need to be cognizant of your own worth. You need to be cognizant what you're bringing to the table, and you're really good that way. You kind of like are master of negotiations, right? So the sun is like there, look at this, it's crowning you. These are like such amazing card, and this is just like really something that wreckage is really already possibly there. You need to deal with some kind of wreckage. Whatever part in your life is not working properly, you kind of like really need to address it and kind of like work with this. Very, very important, right? And then here we are dealing with who you really are and how you're going to behave this month, and we're having like this Knight of Pentacles. So the dude has this horse, which to me almost looks like a Siamese horse, because he has like these kind of like dark tips, And I absolutely love this knight because he's not cheesy with the roses. Yeah, I'm not very romantic, just like you guys are not. This is not a knight who is, going to be harsh like the Knight of Swords, and he just wants to talk about highly intellectual stuff. He's another knight who is like cups, who is like a poet and living in his dreams. This is a guy who is very pragmatic. This is a guy who says, well, not only do I know how to get things done, I will get things done. This is also about friends. This is also about people who come to your rescue. It's kind of like, hey, give me a hand. I see you stuck in the mud. Let me kind of pull you out. And you feeling very comfortable. Remember this 4 of Wands? Where is it? Let's put it here, right? Because these two were here. Remember this 4 of Wands? Talking about this next level. This also could mean appearance of somebody, guys, which in your case could be an earth sign. It doesn't have to be. This can actually be even Aquarius, somebody who is extremely friendly, right? You have lots of signs coming through. You have Leo, you have Scorpio, Aries, Aquarius, Taurus, right? You kind of like have individual signs kind of like really peeking through. But tarot is not necessarily special not in a general reading about the signs. It's about the energy that the sign represents. So this is this energy of friendliness, an energy of being helpful, energy of wanting to be there for you, a buddy energy. So you need to be a friend to yourself, guys. And I really think it was lots of things. You were fighting against the windmills, almost like it looks like it, and you felt like you are that square peg in the round hole. And you were really wondering, what the heck am I doing wrong? And it was like really not much wrong that you were doing. It was just you have been surrounded by the wrong people. And this really shows that this was that past. Look at this past. You have a 10 and you have a 1. You see, there was like somebody who did a number on you guys, and you needed to pick yourself up. You needed to, nobody was there to say, I'm here for you. You really were going to the fog, to the dark, and you did it yourself. I would not be surprised if I see a judgment card in a reading like this, because it would be just yet another karma card that would really talk about fulfillment of this destiny. So we have another page, and this one is a Page of Cups. This is your environment. So in your environment, guys, is really talking about things and people that you can anticipate and expect. Your environment with the Page of Cups, and I don't know if you can see it here. You see this dude also, he is, and I don't know, almost looks like a sword, but really isn't a sword. So I don't know what is like this. Yeah, again, don't laugh at me. Like, I mean, he does have a sword clearly here, but that's a mission in a card. But the Cups is talking about emotional offer. And again, just like this page, this one is like too much. Both of them are sort of like pedestrians, if you really wish. They're people who are just kind of like getting initially intrigued. So it could be that you'll get a person wink at you in a bar. It could be that, you kind of like are asked out on a date. It could be that you are joining a new dating kind of like website. I'm not crazy about them, but for you in this particular period would really work, especially if you're really opening yourself. This also could be about receiving a gift, but it's not going to be an expensive gift. It's going to be something that comes from a heart. It could be something handmade. It could be something that you will not even know who sent you, but it's going to be very meaningful, right? I mean, look at the gift that I got, and I don't know who sent me. I just found it in front of my door. And I know this was very thoughtful. I mean, this person could keep it. I would assume it's probably a child. But I don't even know how many people know that I'm a cat tarot. But I clearly have 2 kitties, and maybe that was the thought behind this. So it just like put a smile on my face. that was very thoughtful. I mean, like when small things like that can really make your day, it's really amazing, because I really think that something like that, you feel it's just going to be so welcoming in your life. So this can also be just simply as sharing that, somebody with whom maybe you had, a tug of war, is now actually saying, let's kind of like drop those swords. Let's kind of like deal with different things. Let's eat. Let's have some food. Like, I'll cook for you, kind of a stuff, which you're going to find incredibly, appealing. Even though if the food is horrible, you're going to just like eat it, and you're just going to be very thankful for that happening in your life. All right. So the next would be like your hopes and your fears. In this category, kind of like we are really addressing the kind of like hopes and fears always come from basically foundations. So we are having these foundations of something has happened. And so this is really good. Hopes and fears are really connecting with how you feel in your core, right? So she is anticipating something. She's holding on to her, I think, basil bush. I would say, is this the basil or is it the lavender? Oh, let me see. I think it's basil. I think lavender has a lot more kind of like spiky things, because both of them have this purple on the top. So it is about foundation build. I really like the stick. Maybe kind of like it was some support. Maybe training wheels can go off at this stage. Maybe some of you started a business that right now is going to feel very comfortable, but it's still not going to be where you really want it to be. But at least you're going to have this like really clear feeling that you're on the right path, right? So this is really talking about harvest, right? But she's maybe prematurely grabbing this. Maybe she needs to kind of like wait for that fruit to ripen, because Seven of Pentacles is always talking about reassessment. You have been on a path, and it takes so freaking much to get there. This can talk about a person. You are kind of dealing with a person. There are like so many of these intricacies and puzzles have to come together. You have to realize when you fail to connect. You have to realize when you tick them off, when they tick you off, and kind of like start kind of like smoothing, like the like nice sandpaper, smoothing the surface in order to make it grow. But at this stage, at the stage of 7, you are like, oh my goodness, I'm kind of like feeling I can do it. Like it's the final kind of like stretch. It's the vision of the final stretch that you're feeling. It's coming, and it's really, really important. So let's see the last direction. Let's go. Oh my God. And there is the Judgment. I told you, I was just hoping, I thought this card is missing. So look, I have a 19, 20, and 21. Here we have it. Ta-da! That's the big finale. Ta-da! And this is really talking about this like big success. The Judgment is success of a different kind. It's not like you'll be showered with money or you were showered with praise, but it's going to pay off for something that you did well. And this is again about destiny. This is again about karma. This is again about something that you need to conquer. You need to be friend to yourself. You need to be friend to the others. Maybe you have betrayed other people. Maybe you were too, argumentative with the other people. Maybe there was a situation which had like too many arguments which shouldn't have happened, right? So the Judgment is talking about, that maybe you felt that something has been lost, whether it was a zest for life or a person, but this is going to re-emerge. So it's about some kind of renewal, and you guys have that energy of reunions over here this month, right? You have this whole energy of a huge joy and of huge conclusion. But this can also be revelation. This can also be kind of redemption as well. So remember, going back to that principle, speak your own truth, but at the same time apologize, because whenever the argument happens, the other person feels violated. And whether or not you think they're right or wrong, they feel they're violated. So there are like two things that are happening at the same time, the facts and emotions. And facts are not always the same for you and me. That's why we go to courts to see what the judge is going to accept as a fact, right? So in this particular case, it's going to be almost like a new lease on life, and you'll be going like forward, backward, right? So there's like something from the back coming back to the fort. Maybe something had a huge emotional impact on you, and because of that you really didn't want to, you couldn't go to this place because it was too painful. Maybe now you can. Maybe now you can release. Maybe you're going to call your ex and say, maybe I don't want to come back with you. Maybe that's the Page of Swords talking, when I'm saying kind of immediately click, right? So try to kind of like have that sentence a little bit different. Hey, how are you doing? Just try to have a little small talk before you kind of like go with your sword, and just say, look, I never gave you time to have closure, and I see, what I did was not what I should be doing, and I can see this now, and I just want to apologize. And the other person says, yeah, I told you, blah 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 blah. Yeah, let them, because you have allowed that cycle to turn. That is the key, and kind of like release of the old things. It's really interesting to me. Look at this tower is back, and it is repaired. It's repaired. The phoenix rose from the ashes, and you guys are going to be completely changed by the time August 23rd roll forward. So that's it for me this time around, my lovely Sagittarians. This was really intriguing, I have to say. Again, I remind you, please check your ascendant, check your moon sign, and don't forget to click and leave comments so you can actually jump higher and get more of these jumpers interpreted. And if you guys want your private reading, check me via cattarot.ca, or you'll find all my contact information down in the description box. So my dear Phoenix, aka Sagittarius, I wish you all the best. This is really big of you, what's going to be happening this month. So can't wait to see what's going to happen next month when all chips fall down. Love you, and until the next time, all the best.